Hi, my name's Sarah Alderson and I design for Aldersign, and today I'm going to show you how to knit some bubbles, and I'm going to show you two ways of doing this. So this is my pattern Crowberry. It's a cardigan that does up at the top only, and it's knitted in reverse stocking stitch with this pretty bubble pattern on either side of the front. As you can see, there's five little bubbles on each little stem or branch of the pattern, and they're all knitted against a pearl stocking stitch background. So I'm going to show you how to make this type of bubble and also another way of making a bubble. So the first technique I'm going to show you is the one that I use to make the Crowberry bubbles. So I've got the reverse stocking stitch side facing me. I'm going to purl 2 stitches, then make a bubble, purl 2 more, make a bubble and purl 2 more. So if I just get set up. So I purl 1, 2. Then I'm taking the yarn to the back of the work to start the bubble. So the first part of the bubble is that you knit, purl, knit, purl, knit all into one stitch. So you create 5 stitches out of that one. So I'm going to knit, bring the yarn between the needles to the front, purl, bring the yarn through the needles to the back, knit, yarn to the front, purl, yarn to the back, and finally knit. So now I've got 5 stitches with quite a large hole of the stitch underneath. I'm then going to turn the work around so the other side's facing me, and I'm going to purl all 5 of those stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see little purl bumps there. I'm going to turn the work back around again. And now this is going to be the stitch that remains at the end of this bubble. These 4 stitches that I made out of the extra stitch are now going to be cast off over this stitch. So one at a time, I take a stitch and cast it off. And you do that for the 4 extra stitches. And then finally, to finish off the bubble, I knit the stitch that's left through the back loop. And there we have one bubble. So I'm just going to purl 2 more and I'll show you again. So I'll bring the yarn to the back of the work. I'm going to knit, purl, knit into this next stitch. So knit, yarn to the front, purl, yarn to the back, knit, yarn to the front, purl, and yarn to the back, knit. So again, I've got the 5 stitches made out of the 1 stitch on the row below. Turn the work, purl those 5, turn the work back again. This is my original first stitch, and I'm going to take these 4 stitches over the top. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and finally knit that stitch. Oh, didn't actually go through a stitch there. Knit that stitch through the back loop, and that's my second bubble made. I'll just purl the last 2. And so now we have 2 bubbles. So I've just worked a couple more rows of stocking stitch after my bubbles, but you can now see the 2 bubbles lying there that were made using the crowberry technique. So I'm now going to show you a second technique, and this is the technique that Anne Kingstone and myself have used in Mystery Knit Along, and this creates a slightly larger bubble. Most bubbles are worked on the purl side or reverse stocking stitch side of work, and this is because bubbles often form part of a pattern with cables, and cables are normally worked as knit stitches on a purl background, so the bubbles are also worked on the purl background. So I'll show you again using the purl side. So I'm going to do the same thing and work purl 2 stitches, make a bubble, purl 2, make a bubble, purl 2. Right, so this technique doesn't involve bringing the yarn to the back of the work to start, but what I'm going to do is purl front and back into 1 stitch twice. So I purl it into the front loop of the stitch, then I move round. It can be a little tricky to do. Catch the back leg and come up between the 2. Purl the second, come round to the front, purl into the front leg, come around the back and purl into the back. So now you can see I've got 4 stitches from that 1 original stitch. I'm going to turn the work around again, and this time I'm going to knit those 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn the work back to the facing side again. And now I'm going to purl those 4 stitches, so it brings an extra layer of work to this. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm just going to move the yarn out of the way so you can see, but now I've got the 4 stitches that are now creating part of this bubble, and again I'm just going to take the 3 extra stitches this time over the top and off the first stitch nearest the pointy end of the needle. So 1, 2, 3, and there's my bubble. So I'll bring the yarn around to the front again, purl the next 2 stitches, and then I'm going to do another bubble here. So I'm going to purl front and back twice, so into the front, into the back, into the front, and into the back. So I've now got 4 stitches out of that original 1 stitch. Turn the work around, knit those 4 stitches, turn the work back, purl those 4 stitches, bring the yarn briefly behind, and now I'm going to lift the 3 extra stitches over the top and cast off over the first stitch. That's the bubble made, and finally I'm going to purl the last 2 stitches on this row. Right, so now I've made those 2 rows of bubbles, and I've just worked a couple more rows of stocking sticks so you can see the bubble much more easily. So the first 2 bubbles on this lower bit here are the crowberry bubbles, and these ones are from the Neck and Neck Mystery Knit-along bubbles. It's not the easiest thing to see, but these bubbles are actually quite a bit smaller than these bubbles. So these bubbles create a larger ball than the crowberry method. But either can be used to create bubbles when you're knitting a pattern. I like both techniques. They're both quite simple to work. Once you get into a rhythm, they don't seem to actually take that much longer. Sometimes when I'm feeling really lazy, I don't turn the work. I just knit backwards along the row, along the 5 stitches or 4 stitches of the bubble, rather than having to turn the work all the time. That's quite an easy thing to learn and do as well. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial and happy knitting!